11. No dice. My teenage years had almost come and gone without me ever having to tackle anyone head first, and my first attempt wasn't exactly a roaring success. Rude sidestepped me, and my momentum sent me tumbling onto the ground. I even rolled a few times for good measure, and when I finally came to a stop, I looked up to see Rude staring down at me. He scratched absently at his cheek with a black-gloved hand and stepped closer. Kyrie was watching surreptitiously from the door behind him. With a flick of my eyes, I told her to run, but she shook her head and leaped out with the office stool held high, rushing at Rude. The furniture slammed into his bald head with a sharp crack. Got him. But nothing happened. Rude didn't so much as twitch. "Evan, use it," cried Kyrie. "What? It? Oh, right." I shoved my hand into my jacket pocket, and the materia was there. I clutched it tight. I thought I could feel the power brimming within. "What are you trying to pull?" asked Rude. "I won't let you have Kyrie." "Don't want her." Rude stepped closer. Kyrie tried again. She jumped onto his back and wrapped her right arm around his neck, her legs around his midsection. Rude frowned slightly. "Yes, now we've got him. Kyrie, you're amazing. Leave the rest to me." I sprang to my feet, adjusting my grip on the materia, and thrust it at my enemy. "Get a load of this, Turk." Rude cocked a surprised eyebrow. "Weren't ready for that, were ya?" Rude suddenly grunted. Kyrie's arm was digging into his throat. "Now." I moved my right hand with the materia safely behind me and threw a punch at his nose with my left. Rude simply stepped back, out of my reach. My fist, with all my strength behind it, had nowhere to land. I staggered and spun. Big mistake. Now my back was to the enemy. "Ow!" Kyrie screeched. By the time I turned around again, she was on the ground, clutching at her butt and writhing in pain. Had he stabbed her? "Kyrie!" I tried to get past Rude to her. He seized my wrist. Agony shot through my arm, and the materia fell from my hand. "Let me go." I could feel the bones in my wrist grinding as I struggled. "Another move and I'll break it." Still holding my right arm, Rude picked up the materia and stashed it into his pocket. Then he approached Kyrie. Preparing to sacrifice my wrist, I pulled back with all my weight to slow him down. "Kyrie, get up. You can do it. Just run." She groaned and stood holding the spot where she'd been stabbed. "Quit being so dramatic." "And Rude," said Rude. Kyrie glared at him. "Kyrie, it's okay. Just go," I shouted. She didn't move. She held her right hand behind her. Did she have something else up her sleeve? I tried harder to pull Rude back, hoping to buy her some time. With a shrill battle cry, she showed her right hand, and the yellow materia held in it. "Give it a rest already," Rude muttered, casually grabbing Kyrie's wrist and wrenching upward. The materia fell uselessly to the ground. I saw her face twist in pain as Rude yanked me forward. "Pick it up," he ordered. "No." The vice tightened around my waist. "Want me to do this to her as well?" I hated to cave into violence, but on the other hand, I was almost grateful for the threats. At least I wasn't going to die. Pathetic, I know, but I couldn't deny it. There was a lesson for me. I bent over miserably and picked up the materia. "You hang on to that." Even with the materia, I was totally harmless, apparently. So materia alone wasn't enough to take down an opponent. Another lesson worth remembering. Now march. With a firm grip on both of us, Rude started walking. I noticed silhouettes in the window. Apparently, he had more than a few spectators. Great, so this is how the neighbors will remember me. Weak and helpless. "Quit that," said Rude, and I saw Kyrie was digging her nails into Rude's hand, stubborn to the end. Then I realized what I should have tried right away. "Rude, you have to help Kyrie. She's hurt." "Hurt where?" "All over," Kyrie protested. "What about your butt? Didn't he stab you?" "Who stabbed her?" Rude sounded bemused. "You did." "Hell I did." "The jerk grabbed my butt," Kyrie burst out. "A full-on grope, you sleaze." That was a relief. At least it wasn't a knife. "It was self-defense." Rude was unruffled. "You grabbed my butt, and not by accident. You knew exactly where your hands were. Help, someone, there's a pervert out here. Put a sock in it." "Let me go, or everyone's gonna know the Turks go around molesting people." Kyrie was going all in on this new strategy, but glancing at Rude, I could tell it would be just as effective as everything else we'd tried. Tell people whatever you want, Rude said, with some disgust. But somebody will pay with their wrist. Maybe you, or maybe your boyfriend here. If you're really gonna do it, just get it over with, she snapped. Hey, Kyrie, this guy ain't bluffing. She looked like she had more to say, but I cut her off with a look. Rude, listen, we'll both be quiet. Can you just let go of us? To my surprise, he did. I didn't come unarmed. I'm not saying I'll kill you, but I'll maim you if I have to. Right, I acknowledged, then checked to see how Kyrie was doing. She did not look happy. Seriously, just give it up for now. We both knew how scary the Turks are. Hell, you couldn't tell them no because you were scared. So why? Is that how you got Aerith to go with you? Said Kyrie. Aerith? Who's that? You know her? Rude seemed interested. Kind of. The exchange was interrupted by the sound of a car horn. This way, Rude started walking, in the direction of Edge, with Kyrie behind him. I hung back a bit. If we were ever gonna run, now was probably our last chance, but the wind had gone out of Kyrie's sails. Where was the surge of elation we felt when we leaped out of that office just a few short minutes ago? The momentary fantasy of that hug and kiss was already fading away. 12. Terra Incognita. Our ride turned out to be a pickup truck. Old but well cared for, with most of its indigo paint still intact. Reno was behind the wheel, and Rude occupied the passenger seat. Kyrie sat between them with her backpack in her lap, while I was crammed into the narrow space behind the seats. I leaned back against the passenger side window with my legs stretched out towards the driver's side. The back of Rude's head was right in front of me, and I could see the bump rising where Kyrie had hit him with the stool. It was strangely satisfying. Took you long enough, said Reno, starting the truck. The whole vehicle creaked with effort. Minor descent, Rude replied. We're not going to do anything to you, Reno told us, sounding a bit forlorn. It's just a drive, okay? That's it. Then tell us where we're going, said Kyrie. The truck growled and rattled up the dark street. Didn't we tell you? We're going to Helan, said Reno. You know it? Place that your buddy Fabio robbed? Kyrie glared at Reno. You shouldn't scowl. Waste of a pretty face. You guys are still on about the theft? Drop it already. Already have. Fabio and Throp got the shit kicked out of them and we took care of the mess, done and done. Assholes, Kyrie snapped. So anyway, Reno was looking at me in the rearview mirror. Sorry about the shiner, dude. We totally did think you were Fabio. I didn't want an apology. Better to avoid thinking about the whole ordeal as far as I was concerned. But you know, I'm impressed you stayed mum and protected your buddy, Reno went on. Even if you were about to piss your pants. Okay, pal, no need to hear that last part. It was another Turk who beat up Fabio, wasn't it? Said Kyrie. Yeah, we kinda got our signals crossed. Elena is, well, Reno trailed off and the truck jounced violently. I looked outside, wondering what Reno meant, and I realized I didn't recognize the landscape. The city lights of Edge had been getting sparser, and now they were gone. This was wilderness, and nothing but pitch black night lay beyond the headlights. Pitch black night and monsters. I sat up straighter. Some of us have been slower to adapt to the new way of doing things, Reno continued. How many Turks are left? Asked Kyrie. Can't tell you. That's Shinra's most closely guarded secret. It's not just you three, isn't it? It's just you three, isn't it? Not telling. Bet I'm right. Yeah, you keep thinking that. Reno twisted to look at me. So, Evan, what was your mom's name? The truck veered wildly as he turned, and I answered quickly in the hope that he'd put his eyes back onto the road. Annette Townsend. I could see Kyrie start to turn back towards me, then stop herself. She'd never heard me say my mom's name before. As far as my friends knew, my parents were dead. Not only that, I'd told them that my mom was a selfish bitch who'd abandoned me in the street, or near enough. I figured that was the kind of background expected from a kid living in the slums. Dude, watch where you're going, will you? I said. You're gonna drive off the road. Huh? Reno looked ahead and wrenched the steering wheel straight. I got it. Not like there is a road. Going a little off course won't hurt. Hey, Rude, wake up. Rude twitched. I'm awake. Annette Townsend, said Reno. I think I'm right. anyway, but phone it in for me, wouldn't you? Apparently, my mom was still a topic of interest. Okay. Rude took out his cell phone and made a call. The person on the other end picked up immediately. It's me, sir. About what we discussed before. He gave my mother's name, said a few more deferential words, and then hung up. What's this about? Even as I asked the question, it struck me. Maybe the Turks knew something about my mom. The sudden rush of hope and apprehension made my whole body stiffen. Nothing you need to worry about, okay? It's gonna be about 2 more hours. You guys should get some shut-eye. Not you, Rude. No one will be able to sleep at a time like this, except Rude. After a while, Kyrie broke the silence. So the point of this trip is to take Evan to Healing? Yep, said Reno. What's his mom got to do with it? Well, nothing. Kyrie wriggled around in her seat until she was completely facing me. She was very close. I'm sorry, Evan. I thought it was me that Shinra wanted. No, I'm sorry you got dragged into it, even though I had no idea that was what had been happening. She's not exactly a total innocent, said Reno. Then, to Kyrie, turn around. I gotta talk to you. Just a sec. Kyrie reached out to me. Hold my hand, Evan, and both of yours. Sheesh, do we really need to pull over and give you kids some alone time? I ignored Reno and did as I was asked. I reached up with both hands to take hers. When I did, something fell from her fingers into mine. Thanks, I feel better now. She gave me one swift, tiny nod and faced forward again. She passed me something right under their noses. I glanced down. It was a kid's penknife. Now that she knew the Turks weren't targeting her, she decided to give me her concealed weapon. So, what did you want me to say? Kyrie demanded. What did you want to say to me? Kyrie demanded. Knock off that con you're running. The live stream reading BS, I mean, said Reno. It was a warning. How about you stay out of my business? No can do. Reno looked at me and into the mirror again. Now that we know you're important to Evan, it's kind of our business too. What did he mean by that? And anyway, why did who's important to me matter to the Turks? Did that mean that they were looking out for her now? I guess that was good, but also unsettling. Like, it wasn't just me who mattered. What the hell did I stand? Where the hell did I stand in all of this? I pulled the brim of my hat down to hide my face, afraid my expression would reveal what a selfish idiot I was. Why couldn't I just be glad Kyrie was safe? If you go around saying you can read the live stream or whatever, people who know about the ancients are gonna think you're one of them. You follow? Said Reno. A while back, we got some reports about a girl calling herself an ancient. We did a little digging and we found you, kiddo. And we thought, whatever, it's just some scam, we're not gonna get involved. The ancients? What was he talking about? Thing is, the old Shinra used to employ some serious whack jobs in their science department. You know, full-on mad scientist types, who froth at the mouth in excitement at the prospect of experimenting on an ancient. Some of those guys are still around. So what? I'm not an ancient. If you go around claiming the powers of the life stream, the wrong kind of people are going to believe that you are. And they won't care how many times you tell them, no, I'm not, I'm faking it. They're going to go after you anyway. Just in case, by the time they figure out you're the scammer you claim you are, you won't be the same person anymore. Like Aerith? Reno had no answer to that. What happened to her? Kyrie pressed. She's dead, he replied. And then no one spoke. The only sounds were the rumble of the engine and the wheels grinding over the rough terrain. The ancients, this Aerith girl, dead. Aerith had been Kyrie's friend, or something like it, and an ancient. And the ancients really could read the live stream? So it's true, I blurted without meaning to. Reno and Kyrie both looked at me. People's memories and knowledge and emotions actually melt into the live stream when they die? Couldn't say either way, Reno said flatly. Not while I'm still among the living. The life stream is the source of all living energy. A river flowing through the planet, Kyrie murmured. It's like the heart of the planet itself. I'd heard that before. It sounded a lot like what the terrorists claimed when they bombed the Mako reactors and brought down Sector 7. When they unleashed fear and chaos in Midgar, Mako is the lifeblood of the planet. If we continue using it, the planet will die. Had they been telling the truth? I don't know if anyone's ever proven anything about the lifestream or what it's made of, said Kyrie. But I swear, it has a will. Didn't you feel like it was moving with a purpose that day? She was talking about the day 2 years ago when Mako, or rather the lifestream, surged up out of the ground. I'd been too busy trembling in fear to, analyze it or anything. That's the feeling I got, she went on. The planet was in danger and the lifestream saved it. Meteor was destroyed by the will of everyone who'd gone before. I lifted the brim of my hat and looked outside. The dark wilderness pressed against the windows, making the inside of the cab feel even more suffocating. Were you friends with Aerith? Reno asked. Well, sort of, said Kyrie. There's this rundown church in the slums, and a couple of friends and I used to play there a lot. We'd have pretend weddings and stuff. Aerith was always there, taking care of the flowers by herself. Sometimes I'd talk to her. One day, she suddenly told me I had to go home right away. I thought she was being mean, and because another kid stepped on the flowers. Yeah, I remember the flowers. She loved those things. So I stomped out, and when I got home, they just brought in my parents' bodies. Damn. My grandma told me something once about the lifestream and the ancients. I always thought it was just a story, but after that, I was sure Aerith was one of them. When did all this happen? I was 10. Aerith was a few years older than me. So, what do you think I said next time I saw her? Dunno. I told her she was creepy. Kyrie pulled her legs up on the seat, hugging them to her chest and burying her face in her knees. Ouch. I stopped going to that church. When I finally went back, it was years later after Sector 7 fell. I thought I'd find some flowers for the people who died. That was when I learned that the Turks took Aerith away. Maybe we should talk about something else, eh, kiddo? Evan, are you listening? Kyrie prodded. Yeah. Remember when we were having a dry spell with the clients last year? Leslie said we should just give up, but I didn't want to, so I came up with this Lifestream story and it worked in everything. It sure did. But at night, when I'm alone, it comes back to me what I said to Aerith, even now. Uh-huh. You know, I think maybe it's time to close up shop. You want to give up, just like that? How many employees you got? Reno broke in. We could always do with more people in the plaza to work on the monument. Yeah, said Kyrie, ignoring Reno, but let's take care of Mr. Arade's case first, she said. We'll make this our last job. Giving me the cold shoulder, huh? Oh, speaking of which, struck by an idea, Kyrie rummaged in her backpack. Look at this picture. The guy on the far right, first row. So, now I've got to help you with business. Reno examined the photo that she shoved under his nose, completely neglecting the more pressing view outside the windshield. His name's Gold Arade, said Kyrie. We're told he was a member of Soldier. Soldier. All right, second class judging by the uniform. I didn't know any seconds. Hey, Rude, look at this picture. Kyrie turned to the passenger seat and held the photo in front of Rude's face. He seemed to be asleep, so she jabbed his shoulder. Rude started awake, stared at the photo, then spoke. That's Nibelheim. Nibelheim, Kyrie echoed. She held the picture up over her shoulder to pass it to me. I took it and gave it another look. Then I repeated the name too, trying to sound it out. Nibelheim? Yep, I thought so too. Reno agreed. When was this picture taken? Sometime between when Sector 7 fell and the night meteor disappeared, I mumbled. I wasn't that interested, to be honest. Really? And you said this guy's name was Arade? Yeah. It turned out there was a whole lot Mr. Arade hadn't told us. 13. Annette Townsend. Annette Townsend. Rufus Shinra had not heard that woman's name before, but apparently Rena was on his way at the moment with her son in tow. There are records of her employment at the administrative support section. About 20 years ago, Seng reported. His expression was all business. All we know is that she resigned, quote, due to personal reasons. Always those secretaries, Rufus remarked. Yes, sir, except in her case, she was offered a lump sum pension at 10 times the stipulated rate. Did the others receive that much? No. Standard practice was double payment at most. So, she was a special case. Rufus remembered that his late father always expressed affection with money or gifts. He could assume, then, that the old man had cared for this Annette Townsend more than the others. And what had she given him in return? The answer was obvious: a replacement for me. It would seem so, said Sang, but she refused to accept the money. At the revelation, Rufus smirked dryly. So, she really hated him, and her son is 19? Yes, his name is Evan Townsend. According to Reno, he and his friends operate a small private detective outfit out in an office in the slums. The girl claims to solve cases by reading the live stream. False advertising, of course. But it seems to have been working for them. Sang's eyebrows twitched. Is something funny? She's a shrewd businesswoman. I think you mean con artist. Two sides of the same coin, some would argue, said Sang. A bastard brother and a pretend ancient? They should be here any moment, sir. Sang deftly changed the subject. The last series of events involving an ancient had not yielded happy memories for the both parties involved. Why even bother with this? Rufus said. Well, if nothing else, Reno will stop bringing it up. That's good enough for me, he replied, spinning in his wheelchair around to face the door. 14. The world turns upside down again. Reno cut the engine. Dark silhouettes of stony mountains loomed over us. Okay, everybody out, said Reno. We've got a lot of patients trying to sleep at this hour, so keep it down. Apparently, this was why he wasn't driving us right up to the facility. I got out and stretched my cramped arms and legs. Chilly out here, Kyrie said, also stretching. She did look cold in her sleeveless top. I shrugged off my jacket and offered it to her. No thanks, I'm fine. Really, go ahead, I insisted. The jacket's your armor, isn't it? Better keep it on. Busted. I nodded and slipped my arms back into my sleeves. Come on, said Reno. Kyrie and I followed him, with Rude casually taking up the position behind us. We hadn't gone 10 steps without my indigestion acting up again. A burp came out of me every 3 steps. I kept my mouth shut, hoping no one would notice. Kyrie slowed and clung to my left arm. I'm scared too. She giggled under her breath. We arrived at a grassy lawn, soft and springy underfoot. I realized we must be on the grounds proper now. That's where we're headed, Reno pointed to a high outcropping with a lodge atop it. Then came to a stop before the only way up, a flight of wooden stairs. Hands over your heads now. What for? Said Kyrie. Security check. He started patting me down before I'd even lifted my arms, and quickly found Kyrie's little penknife in my pants pocket. He looked at the knife and then back at me. Fine, we trust you. He returned it to my pocket and turned to Rude. How about her? Kyrie stood with her hands up, and Rude folded his arms and faced her, like an imposing statue. She stepped forward. Well? No need, said Rude. Are you sure? I might have some crazy secret weapon. That sounded like the Kyrie I knew. Or she was putting on an act because she knew I was nervous? You know, I wouldn't put it past you, said Reno. You're staying out here. So Kyrie warranted more caution than I did. I endured the insult in silence. All right, let's move, Reno told me, starting up the stairs. Ow! I turned to see Kyrie twisting in Rude's grasp. He had her by the arm. She must have tried to follow me. It's okay, Kyrie, I said. They're on our side. Aw, I'm touched. It would be nice if either of us believed it. Hey, Evan, Reno said, as we were nearing the top of the stairs. Did you, see your mom die? No. Then how do you know she's dead? Maybe she's okay. You should have some faith. It's been 2 years, I said. If she's alive, she would have said something by now. That's a weak-ass excuse for giving up, Evan. I'd been wondering a bit during the drive. Had the Turks secretly found my mom to reunite us? Not likely. I decided, which was both a disappointment and a relief. But if not, why was Reno bringing me here? Who or what was waiting for me in that lodge? Take your hat off, said Reno. Not that he'll care either way. Hey, it's me. I got him. It was Reno. That was quick, said Sang, opening the door to let him in. Better believe it. Didn't want to delay the emotional reunion. Rufus forced a smile. This was not his first time meeting a half-sibling, and for him, the event brought little in the way of emotion. He might see some in his brother's eyes, though, be it hostility or weariness or hope. "Looks like you're holding up okay, boss," said Reno. "Yes, well, I'd rather not be awake much longer. We're supposed to keep early nights here." "Right. So, they filled you in about Evan. I mean, if you need a briefing or anything, I can tell you whatever." "That won't be necessary, sir," Sang called, and the young man in question entered the room. For Rufus, this whole ritual was an irritating item to check off the list. But when he saw the latest half-brother in front of him, he found his curiosity piqued despite himself. Evan clutched a pointed hat in both hands, nervous no doubt. His hair was about the same color as Rufus's. His eyes, well, he had his father's eyes, and his strong brows, where Rufus's features had more of his mother in them. Evans made it clear who his father was. Even so, the two of them did look alike. They may have had different mothers, but if there was any consistency to their father's choice in women, the likeness made perfect sense. "Boss, may I present Evan Townsend," Reno announced, eminently pleased with himself. Then he broke into a grin as he introduced Rufus. "Hey, Evan, meet the president of Shinra." Evan's eyes were nearly popping out of their sockets. Clearly, no one had told him anything. Maybe Rufus thought it was worth going along with the subordinate schemes every now and then. "The president?" Evan looked at Reno. "You mean Rufus Shinra?" "That's right. You can call me Doofus Shinra if you like," Rufus fielded the question himself. "He's alive?" Evan was still speaking to Reno. "I am. The decoy who took my place is not," Rufus replied. "You're a candidate for that position, and from what I can see, you'll do." Evan's jaw dropped, and he stared agape at Reno. Then Rufus, then Sung. Sung looked down at the ground, trying to hide his laughter. "Me? Rufus Shinra's decoy?" "He's just messing with you," Reno said to me, barely able to contain himself. "A joke? Okay, fine, but which part? All of it?" "You have his eyes, and his height, and his build. It's kind of uncanny." "So you brought me here because I look like him?" "Evan, you're the president's half-brother," said the man with long black hair, who had shown me in. He looked like a Turk, too. The very definition of one, in fact. Reno and Rude both showed an awkward humanity, well, sporadically in the latter's case, but this guy was pure ice. He sure as heck didn't strike me as the joking type. So was it true what he just told me? I was Rufus Shinra's brother? Son of the founder of the Shinra Company? But my dad... Rufus waited for Evan to finish the sentence. "Now then, let's see what the kid's going to do next." At this point, most of them started hinting they're owed something, a slice of the Shinra pie. Often, they start by sharing stories of their hard-scrabble youth, but my dad died in the war. "If you'd rather go on believing that, I won't stop you," said Rufus. "After all, the Shinra name has lost much of its value compared with a few years ago. Still, the fact remains we share an ancestry." "How was your mother?" "Whereabouts unknown," he said. Reno spoke up while Evan was busy hiding the signs of his indigestion. "You must feel like your world's been turned upside down." "Understandable," Rufus thought. "But now is the time to calm down and think. What do you want?" "Come on, you're meeting a long-lost brother. Both of you could act a little happier," Reno blurted out with excessive enthusiasm. Evan shot him a glance and squared his shoulders before Rufus. "What do you want?" he said, as if it took all his courage to ask. "We really are brothers." Rufus tried to hold it in, but eventually he had to give in to the laughter. "What's so funny?" "It's strange, the power of blood," Rufus said with an effort, then cackled again, then cracked again. It had been quite a while since he laughed out loud. He knew Reno and Song were both looking at him, and the bewilderment only made the whole mess more comical. He was still laughing when the sound of an explosion reached them from the forest. 15. Bad timing. Elena strode into the rec hall toward Throp, who was still bound to his chair. The chair was closer to the door than before. He must have been trying to escape. What, were you thinking of hopping out of here, strapped to that chair? Said Elena. Think about that for a second. I have to go to the bathroom. Hold it in. You're being released. Reno and Rude will come to take you home in a truck. The cab's full, though, so you'll have to ride in the bed. She made no attempt to hide her irritation. This wasn't my call. Consider yourself lucky. Throp positively beamed with relief. Thank you. Whatever. At least I've got a new project ready to go. One that doesn't involve lowlifes like yourself. What project? Maybe I could help? Now he thought he could be her buddy? Screw that. But at least she could have some fun teaching him his place. Actually, I was lying about your release. You're not going anywhere for a very long... That's when the explosion hit. The log walls were turned into flying splinters, and a chunk of wood smashed into Throp's head, knocking him to the ground, chair and all. Elena was flung headfirst into the opposite wall. She was lying there dazed when two men stepped through the hole that had formed. One of them was stumbling and shaking. She recognized him. Stout, glasses, dressed in green. Song sprinted outside as soon as he heard the blast. Reno started to follow, but stopped to look at me, then Rufus. Go, Rufus commanded. I wanted to follow them too. It'd be a good idea, I thought, to get out of that place as soon as possible, but my feet seemed to be rooted in the floor. First explosion I've heard in a while, Rufus ruminated. I was furious at how calm he was. Meanwhile, my frozen legs were starting to tremble. Evan! I heard Kyrie shout from below. Evan! She was coming up. Your girlfriend? Don't let her see you cowering like that. Rufus wheeled himself closer to me and kicked me in the shin. It wasn't a hard kick, more of a nudge, really, but it was enough to spur me into action again. I ran to the door, threw it open, and headed outside. Kyrie! Evan, are you okay? Kyrie sprinted up the last few stairs and flung her arms around me. Her whole body was pressed against me, and I couldn't help but retreat into the room a little. Sensory overload. Yeah, I'm fine. Is that doofus Shinra for real? Kyrie exclaimed, stepping past me. Below us, Sung shouted orders at Reno and Rude, who sprinted off. Rude was watching the entrance to the complex. Curious residents were starting to emerge from the buildings. Everybody back to your rooms, Reno shouted at the top of his lungs. Is it the stigma? I heard Kyrie ask behind me. I turned to find her, crouched down in front of Rufus, peering at him with concern. Her hand was on his knee. I didn't care for this. Kyrie, what are you doing? Does it hurt? Occasionally, Rufus answered, meeting her gaze. He deserves it. I broke in. Evan, Kyrie frowned at me. Would you say that about bits too? I feel like I could hear Rufus' silent laughter. Pathetic. Suddenly, I heard the roar of an engine outside. Grateful for the distraction, I stepped onto the veranda to see a sedan fishtailing over the lawn, ripping up the grass until it finally spun to a stop. The engine kept running. Reno and Rude split up and cautiously approached the vehicle from opposite sides. I knew that car. It was the centerpiece of the courtyard in Doyleyville. Kyrie, we've got trouble. The rear passenger window slid down and I saw two brief flashes, followed by two sharp cracks, gunshots. Reno drove behind the tree and Rude quickly followed suit. Throp's coming with us, a familiar voice declared. Kyrie, that's Fabio, I informed her. What? Suddenly, she was right next to me. The sedan's rear door opened and Fabio jumped out. He was unsteady on his feet, still in pain, but he lifted the gun and fired 3 shots toward the tree where Reno was sheltering. Stealing the medicine was wrong, Fabio shouted, a bit hoarse, but I paid for that. So we're taking Throp home, and then we're even. Got it? Rude started to close in. Fabio, behind you, someone else called. Headman Doyle. Fabio whirled and fired wildly, but Rude kept walking. I swear, I'll shoot you. Fabio took aim. Go ahead, Rude replied, as Reno also abandoned his cover. Fabio hesitated, unsure, but then he drew a bead and pulled the trigger. There was a sharp metallic click. Empty. I could feel his rising panic all the way up here. Fabio, get out of there, Kyrie screamed, right next to my ear. He looked up at us in astonishment. Fabio, get back in the car, said the headman. But Fabio couldn't tear his eyes away. Go, we're fine, Kyrie called. Fabio took one step in our direction and saw how close Reno was and ducked into the car. The door slammed shut, the engine roared, and then stalled. Reno and Rude moved towards the front of the car. Reno was holding some kind of baton. The cliffs echoed with the futile squeal of an engine straining to start. Evan, we have to do something, said Kyrie. Right, but what? Reno had reached the car. He bashed in the windshield with the practice whack of the baton. Okay. He bashed the windshield in with the practice whack of his baton. The sound of the shattering glass was strangely muffled. Come on, get out of there. Hands where I can see him, Reno prompted. One by one, familiar faces emerged from the car. Fabio, Hedman, Doyle, Keogh, and, well, I didn't know the last one, but I guessed it was Throp. On your knees. Keep your hands up, said Rude. They all obeyed, although Fabio promptly toppled over. His body was giving out after all the excitement. What do we do, Evan? Kyrie said. I surveyed the scene again, grasping for a plan, then glanced sideways to see the president at the open door. His head was lowered, a small smile playing at his lips. Did nothing faze him? You had to wonder what kind of life he led, not to take stuff like this, to just take stuff like this in stride. Please do something, Rufus. You can make this go away with a single order, can't you? Kyrie pleaded, putting her hand on his arm. Rufus! It was like she didn't even know I was there. Rufus, however, looked straight at me. You'll have to do something, Evan. You don't have many options. But that only means it's time to show what you're made of. He wheeled around and slowly rolled towards the back of the room. He was totally defenseless. If I attack now... Here's the option, I muttered, then marched after Rufus, grabbed his chair and pushed him out onto the veranda. Reno, Rude, up here, I yelled. And of course everyone looked at me under the weight of all the attention. I faltered. But I was way past the point of no return. If you want your president alive, then what? Then you'd better back away from the car. Seriously? Shaking his head, Reno walked toward the bottom of the stairs. You too, Rude. Leave them alone, I said. Reno was climbing the stairs and getting closer. Reno, stay back. Reno obediently halted. I had expected to see fury in his eyes, but all I saw was sorrow. Surprisingly, I felt a pang in my chest too. But there was no way. I pulled Kyrie's knife from my pocket and opened it. A sad, flimsy little blade, but it could still slice open the throat. Hey, don't be stupid. I ignored Reno and held the knife to Rufus Shimmer's neck. A chill ran from my toes all the way to the top of my head, and gas bubbled up in my stomach. I forced myself to take a deep breath and shouted, Hedman, Doyle, if you go out that way, you'll find a truck parked just outside this grounds. Can you drive it back here? Sure can, he called back loud and clear. The sudden turnaround had breathed new life into him, and he shot off at a sprint. Reno, take Rude and check on the lab. Suddenly, Rufus was giving orders. Tell Song not to get involved here. Wait, what? Boss, are you sure? Don't worry. I'm as interested in staying alive as you are. Reno reluctantly descended the stairs, glancing over his shoulder almost every step. Kyrie, is that your name? Said Rufus, still looking down at the scene below. Kyrie Cannon, she replied, with some bewilderment. There's a gun in the pocket of my robe. Take it. Startled, I looked at Rufus, his hands lightly folded in his lap. In easy reach of his pocket, he could have just killed me any time he wanted. Kyrie realized it too. She wasted no time grabbing the gun. There are spare clips in the back, said Rufus. Take those too. Kyrie nodded to me and went to find them. Why? I had to ask. You'll be leaving, correct? And you'll likely encounter more than a few monsters on the way, he explained. A penknife won't scare anything larger than a kitten. That's not what I meant. I'm letting you win this round. If there's another, I won't be so indulgent. Even if we are technically Got him, Kyrie called at the same time. I heard the approaching truck. That's your cue, said Rufus. I hope you get better, Kyrie fumbled for the right words, then whispered to me. Let's go, Evan. She headed for the stairs. I felt like I had to offer some parting words too, but what? What was the appropriate farewell for a long-lost half-brother? I don't envy you at all, you know. Great. Could I sound more childish, I thought. His expression didn't change. I'm sure you don't. Evan, let's go, Kyrie shouted from the hall halfway down the stairs. I wheeled Rufus back into the lodge and folded the knife and set it in his lap. It's a trade. After Evan and Kyrie left, Rufus fiddled with the penknife. It was more of a whittling tool than a weapon, small enough for a child to use. The first knife he'd ever held had been a prototype model for the Shinra military. The blade must have been 10 or 12 inches. In another life, he might have had the same lot as Evan or Kyrie. He tried to picture it, but as he suspected, his imagination failed him.